This man used to be the most dangerous operative on the planet, the kind of guy other assassins had nightmares about. Then he made the one mistake his whole career told him never to make. He saved a little girl his own organization wanted dead. For that, his own teammates hunted him down and put him in the ground. Roll credits. Right? Wrong. 17 years later, Nightshade wakes up. New body, new life, same unfinished business because the girl he died for is still alive and she's a prisoner of the exact same people who killed him. This time they're about to learn a very expensive lesson. Some monsters don't stay buried. We open on a war-torn Eastern European city, rubble everywhere, and our guy sitting in the middle of it looking like he just went 12 rounds with fate itself. Shirt shredded, chest wound that should have ended things already, gun resting in his hand like it's the only thing keeping him upright. In his head, he's replaying a memory, a little girl begging him to hold on. He tells her to forget him and run. The girl clutches her stuffed bunny like it's a life raft, refusing to leave. He snaps at her, leave now or she ends up exactly like him. Tears streaming, she finally listens and runs. He's alone with the wreckage. Then footsteps, someone's coming and it's not the cavalry. Enter the villain of the hour, a white-haired man in a sharp suit, hands casually in his pockets like he's strolling into brunch instead of a massacre. He calls our guy by his codename, Nightshade, and admits the rumors were true. The man really is a one-person army. The street behind him is proof. Enforcers scattered everywhere, all Nightshade's handiwork. Unforgivable, the villain says, looking at the carnage, then adds that a guy like Nightshade chose to throw it all away over a meaningless attachment. Gun raised, he asks for last words. Nightshade just smiles and says nothing, already at peace with how this ends. See you on the other side, the villain replies, and pulls the trigger up close and personal. Cut to black. New scene, total tonal whiplash. A warehouse where a muscle-bound thug is screaming at a group of terrified kids for trying to bail on the job. One of them stammers that nobody told him it would be like this. Another, smoking like he's got nowhere better to be, shrugs it off. It was just a driving gig, what's the big deal? The kids drop to their knees begging, and one blurts out the quiet part loud. There's no such thing as an innocent driving job at an assassination. The big guy loses it and smashes a golf club into the concrete hard enough to leave a dent. We're delivery guys, he growls. Someone pays, we take anything anywhere. He pulls a blade on the red-haired kid until a hand grabs his arm. Another kid steps up, begging him to let his friend go. Confused by the sudden nerve, the thug watches as this kid, K, calmly volunteers to finish the job himself, telling his terrified senior it'll be fine, since a professional doesn't just go after random people. His confidence, however, is doing a lot of heavy lifting it can't quite support. Night falls. Somewhere across town, a room full of criminals is about to have a very bad evening. A mysterious marksman drops one guy without warning, no sound, no signal, and the survivors realize this isn't an ambush, it's an execution. One by one, they go down before they even understand what's happening. 3 men left. Confusion turns to panic. A voice from outside calmly informs them that drywall doesn't stop 50 cal. Then the window shatters, and in walks the white-haired mercenary from earlier, weapon ready, kicking a table over as makeshift cover, and telling the room, flatly, not to underestimate a professional. He uses the table like a human shield disco ball, catching bullets and returning fire off ricochets, taking all 3 men down without breaking stride, the kind of stunt that would make an action movie stunt coordinator ask for a raise. Standing over the last man, he mutters that the whole syndicate smells rotten. Room cleared, he drops his overheated gun into an ice bucket like he's cooling off a soda. That's when K, the getaway driver, peeks in, freezes and hits the deck in a full panic. Hands up, he blurts that he's only here for a delivery job. The mercenary asks if Dahlia sent him. Yep, just the driver. They hit the highway at night, and the car practically becomes its own character. Fast, tense, silent. K keeps glancing at his passenger in the rearview like he's carrying a bomb that could go off if he blinks wrong. Asked what's wrong, he lies and says nothing. In his head, K's basically narrating a horror movie about how terrifying this guy's energy is. To break the silence, he brings up something he saw earlier, women and children on the first floor. Were they part of the job too? The mercenary's answer is chillingly casual. No, but they would have been a problem if they'd started screaming. The cleaners handle the mess, he adds, like he's talking about a catering service. K laughs nervously. Okay, the rumors were true, this guy is genuinely terrifying. Then he drops a name that gets a reaction. Funeral Flowers. Turns out that's the codename for an elite crew of operatives, each one named after a flower. The mercenary is not thrilled his boss has been running his mouth. Unbothered, K keeps poking the bear, literally pointing at the scar on the man's face and asking if a blade did that. Guess even a funeral flower can get hurt, he teases. The look he gets back could freeze a furnace. Message received. He's pushed his luck far enough for one night. So the mercenary tells him a story instead, about a former funeral flower named after Nightshade, the toxic flower Belladonna, a legend, a nightmare in human form, who broke protocol over a little girl and paid for it, and who ended that story personally, this guy. Kay's response is one word, so what? Ice cold. The gun comes up, that story apparently dies with the driver. Kay stammers, panicking, until the mercenary reveals the real reason he's suspicious. He clocked Kay's counter-surveillance checks and noticed the scared kid isn't sweating the way scared people actually sweat. No fear sent, which means this driver is lying about something. Slowly, Kay's hands move on the wheel, then shoot up in mock surrender, catching the mercenary off guard for half a second. That's all he needs. He floors it, and the car swerves violently toward the barrier. In the rearview, Kay lands a clean punch on his passenger's face, plot twist delivered at 90 mph. The car slams the barrier and the mercenary gets thrown clear. Landing on his feet like this is all routine for him. A flying cap distracts him for a beat. And that's when Kay reveals his real face, eyes glowing red, blade in hand, charging in for round 2. The mercenary reacts fast, but his gun jams at the absolute worst moment. Frustrated, he barely dodges the incoming blade. Turns out the blade didn't miss, it hit the gun on purpose, locking the trigger. Desert Eagles jam easy, Kay smirks. They're actually kind of delicate. Nothing kills a tough guy action hero moment like his own signature weapon betraying him. Furious, the mercenary pulls a curved combat blade from his sleeve. Bare hands versus a blade, Kay doesn't flinch, catching the strike barehanded and going full John Wick hallway fight on him with a rapid counter. One devastating punch to the jaw later, the mercenary is realizing his hands gone numb. His nerves are being systematically taken apart, blow by blow. Down and hurting, he clocks the pattern. Every hit is targeted, surgical, poisonous, just like his namesake, Belladonna. Kay stands over him, dark aura and all, giving him zero room to recover. What are you? The mercenary demands. Kay calls him slow and a weirdo with a gun obsession, a nickname only one person on Earth ever used. The mercenary freezes. That's not possible. Kay twists the knife, figuratively, by pointing out the mercenary didn't actually finish him off back then, he just showed up at the very end to take credit. You definitely died, the mercenary insists. I did, Kay confirms, and then I came back. Cue the mercenary's brain short-circuiting, because reincarnation isn't exactly standard operative training. As if to underline the point, Kay's blade lifts off the ground and floats back into his hand. No strings, no gimmicks, just pure, I'm not from around here anymore energy. Is this about revenge? No, something bigger. Kay remembers a stuffed bunny and a promise he never got to keep, and vows to burn the entire garden organization to the ground to get it back. Even bleeding out, the mercenary warns him he can't take on the whole syndicate alone. There are others just as dangerous waiting in the wings. Kay finishes him anyway, calm as anything, watching rose petals drift down around the body like the world's most morbid ticker tape parade. Cut to a shadowy boardroom, where a blonde woman approaches a blindfolded man seated like a king on his throne. His name, Dahlia. He's just been told one of his top operatives has been taken out. He asks if she remembers the man who once saved her during her country's civil war, the same man Dahlia personally executed. The room buzzes with theories. The police, a rival government, someone finally beating a funeral flower fair and square. Dahlia mulls it over, tapping his fingers like a bored chess grandmaster annoyed a pawn moved wrong. His verdict: there's a weed growing in his garden and weeds get pulled. He orders the rest of the funeral flowers activated. 1 month deadline, 0 trace left behind. Flashback time. Kay's real origin story. Orphaned by war, no memory of his parents, no future to speak of, until a stranger showed up one day and offered him exactly 2 options: die in the gutter, or become an operative and survive on the syndicate's terms. He chose to live. The voice in his head, his mentors, drilled one rule into him forever: hesitate and you fall. Years of brutal training later, he learns the garden isn't just hired killers, they see themselves as protectors, quietly erasing dictators, warlords, and terrorists to prevent bigger wars. Very noble, very convenient cover story. For 20 years he did exactly what he was told, no questions asked, a machine executing someone else's version of justice. Then came the mission that broke the pattern, a nerve gas hit that should have killed him, and a little girl he was ordered to eliminate who he saved instead. Dying, he handed her a package and told her to run and start over, far away. She refused, tore a piece of her own dress off, handed it to him, and point-blank told him she wasn't leaving without him, tears and all. That look in her eyes did what 20 years of training couldn't. It changed his mind completely. Cut to a rundown shack, Kay recovering, surrounded by empty eye drop bottles, the sulfuric acid and atropine that just barely neutralized the nerve gas. With a 20-minute window she somehow beat, alone, while being actively hunted. She never thought twice about her own safety, just his. When he tells her to rest since no one's coming for them, she asks if he regrets giving up his shot to escape. Her answer, she doesn't need an escape plan because he's going to protect her. He reminds her flatly he's just a mercenary, not her family. She pouts anyway, and something in him softens for the first time in 20 years. He promises to protect her until she's truly free, the first promise he's ever made in his entire operative career. Then, record scratch, a voice screams for her idiot brother to wake up, and our hero gets punched straight out of bed. Present day, 17 years have passed, and he's somehow a high schooler now, with a new little sister, Saki, yelling that he's late for school. She's not buying his hit my head on the stairs story, especially the part where he came home smelling like smoke. He's thinking that smoke smell is from torching a car to destroy evidence, not exactly breakfast table material. He panic invents a barbecue alibi. She points out he hates vegetables. He blames brain rewiring. She just stares, unconvinced, and tells him to eat before it gets cold, the universal move of every suspicious but tired sibling in fiction. Alone again, he reflects that on paper his new life looks perfectly normal, new family, new routine, but none of it feels real, because Kay's memories are still very much alive inside him too. This isn't possession, it's a merger. It all traces back to a fall 10 days ago. Coincidence? He doubts it. A notification pulls him out of his own head and back to business, the real reason he's been keeping his cover intact. A hacker contact confirms the data analysis is done. Kay remembers pulling a data chip from Dahlia's pocket watch after their fight, an antique with a very modern secret hidden inside. His contact is stunned to hear from him after over a decade of radio silence. Now that Nightshade's clearly back and clearly took Dahlia down, the hacker wants answers before handing anything over. How is he alive, and why is he suddenly poking the garden again? Is this about a girl named Lilia? Turns out yes, after Nightshade died, the garden took the girl and turned her into a living trophy, paraded around for status, with zero actual freedom, and treated badly behind closed doors for 17 straight years. The hacker can't help but ask why an emotionless machine would care this much. Nightshade shuts that down fast, and the hacker sends the data anyway, a hit list from Dahlia, with one very familiar name on it, a young girl. Cut to St. Ange's Girls' Academy, the kind of prestigious, gleaming private school that exists specifically so a mob boss's daughter can look like a normal teenager. Everyone adores her. She's basically the school's unofficial mascot of grace and charm. Across the street, our guy is watching from the shadows, reading her file. Akari Shido, sole heir to one of Japan's biggest underworld syndicates, daughter of its late boss, which is exactly why the garden wants her gone too. He's just a high schooler now, up against a global crime syndicate with political puppets on every continent. But her crisis is exactly the leverage point he needs to start his real war, and he intends to use it. Amused that a mob princess studies at such a proper school, he strolls up to her bodyguard and gets straight to needling him. The guard warns him this world eats rookies alive. A second bodyguard steps in before it escalates, demanding to know his business. Not targeting her, Kay says, targeting you. The first guard swings anyway and misses completely. He recognizes boxing instantly, perks of a past life spent studying every fighting style on Earth, and dodges every combo with almost insulting ease, sidestepping punches like he's dodging paparazzi at a red carpet. One clean catch of the fist and arm pin, a chokehold, and the guard's on the ground before he even registers what happened. Relax, Kay tells him, I'm not your enemy. Then Akari herself arrives, ordering him to let her guard go. He complies on one condition, she hears him out. Tea, he suggests. She weighs it, then agrees, leading him to a quiet little cafe called Savannah, where she cuts the small talk and demands he get to the point. He's not her enemy, he's hunting the people hunting her. Not even her bodyguard stands a chance against what's coming. The funeral flowers, an elite kill squad she's clearly never heard of, but is about to learn to fear. He offers to clear them out for her, enemy of her enemy, and all that. Her bodyguard objects loudly, right up until Kay's glowing red eyes deliver a very effective non-verbal argument, freezing him mid-sentence. Akari, unconvinced, wants proof. Kay drops one. He knows about a blacked-out incident in Yokohama where 3 executives were eliminated with a Desert Eagle by an operative codenamed Dahlia. He tosses Dahlia's actual gun on the table like a mic drop, telling them to run ballistics if they don't believe him, and mentions, casually, that he handled the cleanup crew too. The bodyguard accuses him of being the real threat. Kay just asks dryly if he really thinks he'd go to all that trouble for nothing. Akari, finally convinced, decides to trust him and heads home with her new, deeply suspicious ally in tow. Back at the Shido estate, Kay strolls in like he owns the place, complimenting the Daker, while the bodyguard fumes about letting a total stranger wander around unsupervised. Ignoring the noise, Kay clocks the entire security setup in one glance: cameras, patrol routes, blind spots, and casually informs Akari that her bulletproof vest is basically a fashion accessory against what's coming. Elsewhere, a rat gets crushed under a high-heeled, dramatic entrance number 2. An elegant older woman in traditional dress glides through the shadows, blade ready, clearly enjoying this way more than she should. Kay repeats his warning: everyone needs to clear out now. The bodyguard resists until Akari overrules him, politely but firmly, and he reluctantly sends the household guards home while staying behind himself, loyalty over logic. Kay's surprised she trusts him this fast. Her reasoning: regular guards were never going to cut it against professionals, so you fight professionals with a professional. When he asks how she even knew he was *1. She says she's seen those eyes before, not cold and mechanical like a killer clocking in for work, but burning with something personal, an obsession, a grudge. It unsettled her, and weirdly, it's also exactly why she trusts him. He asks about the operative with matching eyes. Akari describes the woman who killed her father, an elegant elderly lady, who arrived smiling like an old family friend and left a bloodbath behind her. Same smile the whole time. She took out every bodyguard in the room. Something about the description, specifically a red spider lily engraved on the blade, makes Kay's blood run cold. He knows exactly who that is. Right on cue, sharp pain hits him out of nowhere. He's struggling to breathe when the woman herself appears, smiling, with the bodyguard already down at her feet. She notes, almost admiringly, that the mansion is riddled with traps, his traps. She threatens the injured guard for information, needles at the ready, in what she cheerfully calls plucking petals. He throws needles at her instead and refuses to talk. Akari jumps in, swinging a blade to protect him. The old woman recognizes Akari on sight, clearly not her first time keeping tabs. Category screams a warning as the two women clash, her needles somehow parrying full sword strikes with terrifying precision. Between comments about how much Akari's grown up, those eyes look absolutely delicious, she purrs, genuinely unsettling. She strikes Category down mid-defense, then senses something new entering the fight. Akari swings again in the distraction, but the old woman dodges smoothly, gearing up for a finishing blow, until Kay steps in, visibly annoyed that Akari didn't just stay put and let him handle it. Eyes glowing, he squares up. She readies her blade and needles, radiating dark energy of her own. 2 seasoned killers, 1 hallway, 0 small talk left to exchange. She clocks immediately that his stance is built for fighting a blade barehanded, deliberately baiting attacks toward his torso and neck, the 2 places you'd think twice about targeting a professional, so he can counter the second she commits. Theory's easy, execution takes nerve. She adjusts, moving carefully, until he tosses his cap as a distraction and rushes her anyway, ducking under her blade and landing a hit. Cocky kid, she mutters, realizing he just struck her perineal nerve, a very specific, very deliberate target. He recognizes her fighting style as Salat and even compliments her range. She's reminded of someone very unpleasant. Flashback: over 20 years ago, she's a combat instructor training a boy who is, surprise, Kay's past self, being taught that fighting isn't about power, it's about flow. He surpasses her after seeing a move exactly once, which is the kind of student every teacher simultaneously loves and resents. She had to keep sharpening her real-world skills for years just to stay a step ahead of him. Back in the present, they finally settle into their old rhythm, teacher and student, reunited under much worse circumstances. He recalls a piece of advice she once gave him and rushes in at full speed. He strikes her nerve again, leaving her leg numb, disarms her mid-motion, and catches her own blade out of the air. Power dynamic, officially flipped. She takes a glancing cut to the neck and barely pulls back in time, then unleashes a rapid flurry he immediately recognizes, the Ivy technique, built on flexibility most human joints shouldn't allow. He reads her patterns anyway, and she realizes, with mounting dread, exactly who she's fighting, the same demon she's been quietly hunting for years without knowing his face. She commits to her ultimate technique, the dance of shadows, a strike so refined it's basically poetry with a blade attached. He braces for the hit of his life. He reads the blade tip instead of the flashy movement around it, dodging and parrying with barely their margins. One graze gets through, laced with something extra. She's not above a little toxin insurance. Paralytic flower venom, Amaryllis this time, locks up his legs completely. She closes in for the kill with the confidence of someone who's already won this fight in her head. The dance of shadows lands in full, flawless, unblockable, textbook perfect. Except somehow he's not there anymore, dodging what should have been an unavoidable finishing blow at the literal last second. His demonic side finally surfaces fully. He grabs her collar and slams her down with everything he's got, the tables not just turned, but flipped through a window. He picks up her own blade off the floor, disgusted, and ends it there. She takes the loss with something close to respect, student officially surpassing master in the worst possible circumstances. Her last words are almost poetic, see you by the Sanzu River for a rematch, and blooming in red is a pretty sight after all. Kay staggers up, still fighting off the toxin in his system. He used tactical breathing to slow his own heart rate and buy time, no underground doctor needed, since a toxin specialist always carries the antidote on them. He finds it, along with something more valuable, another pocket watch, another clue. Back at the mansion, Katajiri's patched up and stewing, watching Akari clean him up and quietly suggesting they just drop this whole thing, walk away while they still can. He's rattled that fight was on a completely different level, and he knows it. For the first time, he's admitting out loud that he can't protect her alone. Kay overhears and points out the obvious. Running is technically still an option. He then drops a much heavier truth on Akari. This isn't just her burden, it's her bloodline. The Shido name is literally tattooed into her. Katajiri snaps at him for talking like he understands her life. Kay, unbothered, drops the real bombshell. He knows exactly who hired the hit, pulled straight from that pocket watch's data. The name, Messiah Care, the Shido clan's own assistant head, the guy her father personally promoted, who quietly built an empire of casinos and underground fight rings while everyone assumed he was loyal. Kay's read Kara got tired of waiting his turn and decided to just take it. Enter the Garden's involvement. Kara partnered with them to wipe out the old guard and seize the Shido throne outright. His endgame, control the whole underworld under Garden protection, safely shielded from any rivals. Kay's endgame, burn every piece of that plan to ash. He asks Akari the real question, run or fight. She stands up resolute. She was never planning to run. Whatever mess her family built, she'll own it, but she refuses to hand it over to a traitor without a fight. Full this is the way energy. She knows exactly what she's signing up for and doesn't care. Impressed, Kay finally introduces himself properly, well, semi-properly, as Kay, no last name, for both their sakes. Deal made, she hires him to help take down Carrie. In exchange, the total destruction of the Garden, backed by the full weight of the Shido clan, money, information networks, political connections, the works. Kay couldn't ask for a better war chest. Handshake Alliance official, cut to Carrie in his fancy office, wondering why he hasn't heard from Lyoris, the old woman, and turning to a hooded blonde operative for answers, Companula. Companula couldn't care less about babysitting, a crazy old lady, and mocks the idea she got taken out by a mere high schooler, right up until a bullet-shaped hole in the wall makes the theory suddenly plausible. Carrie scolds him for the attitude, and gets a blade to the throat for his trouble, courtesy of Companula, moving faster than anyone in the room can process. A little warning Nick and a clear message, they're helping him, not working for him. Carrie backs off, rattled. Companula lounges against the wall, radiating the kind of smug superiority usually reserved for movie villains monologuing at the wrong moment. Care decides none of this matters. With the old guard gone, the Shido clan is basically already his. 2 days later, a jam-packed underground casino, decadence on full display. Kay walks in with Akari and her bodyguard, dressed sharp, scanning every angle like he's casing the place for a heist movie. Show's about to start, he says, step one of the counterattack. Money changes hands, cards get dealt, and the trio moves through the crowd, drawing more attention than they'd like. Well-dressed onlookers whisper about the young girl in the room. Someone half recognizes her. Katajiri worries they're too visible. Kay's unbothered. Everything is going exactly to plan. Flashback to the mansion where they mapped this whole thing out. Katajiri argues Kay could have just taken out Kare, solo instead of dragging Akari into danger. Kay lays out the logic. Kill Kare, without a clean succession plan, and the whole Shido clan collapses into chaos. Better plan, Akari publicly challenges Kara for leadership, forcing every member of the syndicate to pick a side in the open. Convinced, Category arranges a high-end dress fitting, because if she's stepping into the spotlight, she's doing it in style. Back in the casino's VIP room, Kara gets word Akari just walked in with 2 guards. Companula, grinning, offers to handle her right there. Kara shuts it down, no scenes in front of paying customers. Orders given, treat her like any other guest for now. Category confirms the traitor rumors are true. Kay reveals Phase 2, drag Kara into the open publicly, where he can't hide behind polite society anymore. They approach a high-stakes blackjack table. The dealer warns the minimum bet is a cool $1,000,000. Kay pops open a briefcase of cash like he's unveiling a magic trick, and Akari, unfazed, says she's not here for chump change. An hour later, she's absolutely demolishing the table, stack after stack, blackjack after blackjack. Dealer sweating through his suit like this is the world's most stressful magic show gone wrong. Other players start muttering about cheating. Kay, smug, explains the truth. This isn't luck, it's card counting, but taken past any MIT team urban legend because he's tracking every card with inhuman precision. He calculates probabilities in real time and passes the answers to Akari through subtle light signals. Compared to a battlefield, memorizing 6 decks is basically a lazy Sunday for a guy with his reflexes. The dealer's spiraling, terrified his bosses will make him personally cover the losses. That's when Kara finally shows up to confront Akari himself, dripping with fake hospitality. "If I'd known you were coming, I'd have rolled out the red carpet," he sneers, bowing with maximum disrespect. Category tells him to drop the act. He doesn't. Instead, he generously offers to cash her out and send her packing. Akari shuts the offer down cold, calling him a rat who got fat squatting in her father's house. His temper cracks for a second, enough for the room to start whispering her real identity. Someone warns her she's playing with fire. She agrees, and decides cards are boring anyway. Time for the venue's real main attraction. Kara catches the implication instantly, and a wicked grin spreads across his face. The Scarlet Cage, the casino's no-rules underground fight ring. Akari proposes the ultimate stakes. Last person standing wins everything. Kara tries to brush it off, but she's already laid her terms on the table. Her entire inheritance versus his entire casino. Word spreads through the room instantly, and the crowd starts buzzing for the fight of the year. Backing down now would torch Kara's reputation completely, so, reluctantly, publicly, he accepts. Deal sealed, Kay watches with the quiet satisfaction of a man who just watched his trap snap, shut exactly on schedule. Elsewhere, Companula's watching the whole exchange on the security feed, absolutely delighted at the show about to unfold. Guards seal off the arena, lights blaze up. The crowd goes feral for the surprise main event nobody saw coming. The announcer hypes the undefeated champion, Takashi Kinju, the Smasher, and then introduces the mystery challenger, a slim, unassuming stranger the crowd immediately writes off. Kay steps in wearing a full black suit, looking about as threatening as a substitute teacher, right up until the fight starts. Weapons banned, everything else fair game. Category's nervous. Kay's completely unbothered. "I'm not actually a fighter," he says, which is the understatement of the entire show. Kinju charges immediately, throwing a haymaker. Kay blocks it without so much as a flinch, and the crowd, misreading total control as being frozen in fear, starts screaming for a finish. Kara watches with a cigarette and zero respect, noting Kay's blocking every hit with surgical precision, and still hasn't moved a single inch from his starting position. Amused but dismissive, Kara tells Akari martial arts are useless down here, pure violence wins every time, and touches her shoulder in a way that earns him an instant, well-deserved wave of disgust from her. He threatens to teach her a lesson too, once this is over, comparing her to a pet that needs discipline. Akari calls him a lapdog for the garden, thoroughly unimpressed by the power trip. Kara's temper snaps and he smashes his cigarette out, right as he notices something wrong with his champion. Kinju's gassed out completely, despite being the only one throwing punches this whole fight. One perfectly placed hit later, the champion drops, a total knockout that leaves the entire arena in stunned silence. Category can't figure out how he ended it that fast. "First thing you do against a beast," Kay explains, "is break its fangs." Cryptic, until the ref drops unconscious too, and it becomes very clear the champion was never the actual target. Enter Companula, casually knocking out the entire arena one person at a time like he's clearing a video game level on easy mode. Total chaos ensues. Kay, mildly annoyed, quips that the casino isn't being very hospitable tonight. Companula introduces himself as the closer, here to make sure nobody's amateur theatrics ruin his actual mission. His plan: erase all evidence this match ever happened. Care, out of options, lets him proceed. Companula drops a fake apology and immediately launches a lethal kick straight at Kay's carotid artery. No warm-up, no mercy. Kay recognizes the strike and Companula clocks his fighting style as Salat, a genuinely versatile Southeast Asian martial art trusted by militaries worldwide precisely because it's brutally effective. Kay lands a single palm strike that sends Companula flying, the kind of hit that makes an action movie audience gasp out loud. Companula spits blood, more amused than angry, and asks if he's also a funeral flower. Confirmed. Companula, the flower of gratitude, thanking him for actually giving him a fun fight for once. Round 2 is officially on. The remaining crowd watches in stunned silence as two operatives, who move faster than the human eye, can track go at it for real. Companula taunts Kay for running out of material and charges in fast, genuinely fast, but Kay slips it anyway, barely. The exchange escalates into a full-speed brawl, technically dazzling, dangerously close, the kind of fight choreography a blockbuster would kill for. Kay notices something odd though. Companula's attacks are fast but weirdly predictable, nowhere near the refinement of his old master's style. Companula finally lands a glancing hit, clipping a nerve. He recognizes Kay's counter as a forbidden, near-extinct martial technique, one nobody's used in 17 years, since its last known practitioner supposedly died. Awkward. The two trade heavier blows, evenly matched. Companula grinning like this is the most fun he's had in years. Kay knows better than to get comfortable. Companula starts moving fast enough to leave after images, a classic too fast to track trick, but Kay isn't fooled, dodging attacks after they've already been thrown, which shouldn't be humanly possible. Kay catches him midair with an overhead strike and slams him into the floor with full force. Companula's down, but gets back up fast, because of course he does. Kay eggs the fight on like it's a title bout he bet money on. Akari calls him a coward who only talks big. Kay, unfazed, keeps his footing and gets ready for round 3. Kay finally figures out Companula's secret: artificially hyperdeveloped nerves, courtesy of stem cell modification, thicker axons, tougher wiring, the whole built different package, and Companula's thrilled someone finally noticed. His reaction time clocks in at a full 10 times faster than an average human's, basically cat-level reflexes, watching the world play out in slow motion. Kay realizes his own palm strikes run on the exact same trick, just inverted. Companula compares it to advanced techniques from Chinese martial arts, bragging that pulling off moves like this is basically breathing for him, and mocks everyone stuck with regular human limits. Kay mid-fight asks the world's most anticlimactic question: doesn't having super reflexes make watching movies a nightmare? Companula, genuinely annoyed, admits, yeah actually, that part really does suck. Every action hero's secret weakness, the AMC theater experience. Time to wrap this up. A red aura wraps around Kay as he preps his final move. Companula grins, accepting the challenge, promising to watch this to the very end, dramatic to the last second. Kay realizes straight attacks won't work against reflexes this unbalanced. His only real shot is a perfectly timed counter, landing simultaneously with Companula's own strike. Except Companula baited that exact read, letting the first hit land on purpose just to prove he can react to anything, even a surprise counter. Kay eats a devastating punch and goes flying. Somehow he's still standing. Companula taunts him for not striking back, assuming a counter from this range is pointless, and throws what he believes is the finishing blow. At the very last instant, Kay shifts just enough because his counter was launched before the punch even landed, exploiting the one blind spot in Companula's hyperreaction. It only works on threats he can actually see coming. Two fingers tap the space between his eyebrows. Venom Needle, secret Lankamati technique, a nerve strike that scrambles the target senses in real time. "How'd you like my grand finale?" Kay asks, then follows it up with a palm strike so violent it cracks the floor beneath Companula's body. Everyone watches in stunned silence. Companula, dazed, demands to know what he actually did. Kay's answer: he just touched him, that's it. No lie, no trick, well, mostly. The real secret: Kay never attacked him directly. He locked his own body into a rigid stance, spine, back, forearms all braced like a human tent pole, and simply refused to move, redirecting every ounce of Companula's own force straight back into him. Basically, Companula ran full speed into his own punch, boomerang style, a Chinese technique known as borrowing force to strike back. Kay stands over him, victorious. Companula, wrecked but weirdly at peace, admits the whole nerve talk earlier was bait to buy time for the poison to work. Kay confirms it. Every operative eventually ends up on the losing end, and today was just his turn. With his last bit of strength, Companula thanks him, genuinely, for the best fight he's had in a long, boring while. He closes his eyes for the final time, and Kay tells him quietly to rest. No time to process